My big conversation today is one of the biggest frontmen of the 1980s, Mark King of Level 42. He and his bandmates had a number of hits in the decade, including Something About You, Lessons in Love, and were praised because they had an absolutely unique sound and style. They headed to the Lowry on the 15th of October as part of their new nationwide tour. So ahead of the show, I sat down with Mark to have a chat with him, find out what life's like for him and the band in 2023. And I started off, as I often do, because I love to find out how people got into music in the first place, and that's why I asked Mark.
I grew up on a prison estate on the Isle of Wight. My dad was an serving officer there. The nice thing about growing up on an estate like that was there were loads and loads of officers' families that had come from all over the UK. And there was one lad, Colin Gibson, who was actually down from Manchester. And by the time I was 9 years old, I got a drum kit. My dad bought me a drum kit. And this lad, Colin Gibson, he was playing guitar. So we got together and we used to go and sort of jam in his house or jam up at my house. And we actually got a crack at doing a talent show that was down here on the Southern TV at the time called Anything You Can Do. We did this sort of version of Get Back by the Beatles. I just fell in love with this whole thing of like performing and making music. The reason you fall in love with it is the effect that you see it has on other people. You're just doing something that feels completely natural, but I've sort of learned over the years that not everybody can do that, but everybody loves music. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about music. It's this great unifying thing. It's not like sports or something tribal like that, but it's just the music speaks to you or it doesn't, and invariably it crosses all those boundaries. I'm not proud. I was hard today. Growing up on the Isle of Wight, there were so many opportunities to play live because there was loads of holiday camps and pubs and bars and hotels. By the time I was 11, I joined this band called Pseudo Foot. This is as a drummer, by the way, and I was out and I'd be doing sort of 3, maybe 4 nights a week, and I was earning very nearly as much as my dad doing these gigs. And I think my mum and dad were sort of like, blimey, that maybe this isn't such a silly idea after all.
You've got a unique sound. I'll tell you how I know this. The other day, I've no idea why, I heard a song of yours from the 90s called Forever Now. But I knew straight away it was you.
That's cool, It's a funny thing about, having an identifiable sound is probably one of the hardest things to try and achieve. It's not that we set out to do that at all. It just happens to be the way it sounds. I'm touched that you heard it like that, Mike. Thank you. That's cool.
My other question then, relevant to that, is most of us, if we want to do something in rock and roll, do okay, if we're very lucky. Very few people have the success that you've had. And when you look at some of those songs that have come from you, Something About You, Lessons in Love, Running in the Family, iconic songs. Are those songs, and be honest with you now, a burden or a blessing? Oh,
blessing, 100% blessing, Mike. I can't believe my good fortune that I still get to go out, 43 years into the band's career, and in essence just making people happy. It's so bizarre. I learned years ago that, the fastest way to watch an audience glaze over is to announce that you're going to play your brand new album from start to finish. They really want to hear these songs that, some might see as a burden. I don't. I see it as a blessing. It's beautiful.
Could only ever be Level 42, and you can hear the second part of my conversation with Mark tomorrow. And an amazing conversation with Level 42's Mark King. You heard the first part of it yesterday. The band are about to embark on a nationwide tour. It brings them to the Lowry this Sunday here in Salford. And I sat down for a chat with Mark. We had the most, honestly, such a great conversation. So I started this part of the conversation with a very difficult question. What are you the proudest of? If I could say to you, look, I've just borrowed the BBC's Desert Island for an hour. I'm going to pop you on it, but you can only take one of your musical babies with you. What would it be?
Well, that's, oh goodness me, that's like Sophie's Choice, you know.
It is.
Thousands, and it's a tough one. You know what? It will probably be a song called Something About You that we came up with in 1985, and there are many reasons for that. One, because Phil's brother came up with an amazing lyric for that once again seems to resonate with so many people around the world, and you know, that ever since we released that, and we've toured, and you know, you meet people and they say, when I heard that song it meant such a lot. And that goes right up to just 3 years ago. I got a call from a guy called Taylor Hawkins, who was the drummer in Foo Fighters. Taylor was the loveliest guy. He sadly passed away last year. Taylor got in touch and said that he really loved that song and that he wanted to do, you know, he was going to cover it. We became really, really good friends. And the fact that, you know, a guy that plays in a band that in every way is different from Level 42, you know, one of the big stadium rock bands of today, so wanted to cover Something About You. That means such a lot to me, because, you know, you're speaking to a guy that grew up in Texas and then moved to California, and, you know, I'm over around the other side of the world. But isn't it amazing that one song, one bit of music can touch somebody else somewhere so profoundly?
The other thing, and final thing, I'd love to get into your heart and soul about is, right, I heard a review of a gig a few weeks ago. I won't say who it's by because I could leave myself in trouble for libel, but it said the gig was completely ruined by the lethargic, lacklustre delivery of songs by this artist. And I thought, you shouldn't perform if it's a chore. And I know that you perform to the best of your ability. Where does that energy come from? Well, exactly. But you try. You don't go on and think, oh, we'll just wing this. There's
a part of me that would sympathise with whatever the artist was that you're talking about. I hope it wasn't a review of one of our gigs. But, you know, whoever that artist is, you know, maybe they were just having a bad day. You know, sometimes it can be hard leaving your personal life off stage, because music is such an emotional thing. Therefore, you know, what you're going through, it comes bubbling up. However, having said that, I've always got such a buzz just off of being up on stage anyway, and that the feedback that you get from the audience is so immediate and so electrifying that you can't help. You know, I couldn't stand there and be bored if I tried, because that's just not what I'm getting from the room. Anybody that's a vibe sponge just picks up the vibe, and you go with it. It is electric.
Well, your music has an absolutely iconic feel. It always resonates a certain moment in time. You would never ever think you were listening to a band that wasn't Level 42. And I think in that, you know, it's been a bit of a gift to your musical DNA. But it's been great talking to you. I love talking to people that love music. And it's not just going through the motions, you know?
It's a joy talking to you too, Mike. And I can tell you're passionate about music, as am I. So all the best to you, my mate. And I hope I'll see you sometime soon. Living it up, living it up. I can feel it.
There must be one like her in every club, in every town. Could only be Level 42. Mark King and the band are live at the Lowry on Sunday night. And it's also about me being passionate about music. He's really passionate about his music. And great to talk about the start of the band, how they got together on the Isle of Wight and their live career. So Mark King, Level 42.